My last question for you is a hot dog a sandwich, and why?
No,
Why?
it's not because it's not. I don't have a good reason. When I think of a sandwich, I think you need to have. That's a good question. Is a hot dog a sandwich? Okay, maybe yes. It is a substance between two slices of bread. So sure. Yep. I'm gonna take that. It is why can't it be a sandwich? Actually, yes, it's a sandwich. I changed my mind.
I love seeing the growth mindset in action right there. That's excellent.
That's right. I had a limiting belief. I had challenged it while I was saying it, and I was like, actually, no, it is a sandwich.
Love it. Thank you so much for being on the show, Kim. And with that, I'm going to ask you the last question I ask all my guests, and you are a lawyer, so I am interested to see how you answer this. Is a hot dog a sandwich?
Yes. Because
Why?
because it is meat between bread.
Okay, great.
I'm interested to see other people's responses to that.
I'm going to do a compilation video at some point. So with that, Megan, thank you so much for being on the show. I have one final question for you, Ruben, and that is a hot dog a sandwich?
I would like to defer. Is it okay to mention another legal podcast on this legal podcast?
Of course.
Yeah. I would defer to the sandwich specialists over at the podcast known as A Citizen's Guide to the Supreme Court, who have addressed this question on a number of occasions. And I think from recollection, I think the answer sort of depended as to where you lie on the D&D chart, right? Are you familiar with the D&D good and evil chart?
Yeah, good, evil, chaotic, neutral. What's the other? I can't remember the other one. Is it just chaotic, neutral, good, and evil?
Yeah. And then
Okay.
neutral in the middle, or true neutral.
Neutral, right. That's where I lie. I lie in neutral.
Yeah. True neutral fan. Yeah. It's, yeah. Yep.
Right. Well, I don't think we're going to get any better than that. So I'm going to finish with one last question. Whoever has an answer first, go. And then I want to hear from the other person. And that is, go with your gut response here. Is a hot dog a sandwich?
No,
Why?
because then we would call it a sandwich.
Jess?
Oh, I'm torn. At first I was going to say no because, how do I explain this? There's only one opening, but then I guess you have like other forms of sandwiches where there are. So I'm going to say yes. I'm going to say yes, it is a sandwich.
Why?
Because I want to. Because I can. Because I get made fun of all the time that I live in Chicago and put ketchup only on my hot dogs. And so now I'm just going to continue to be annoying when it comes to hot dogs and say it's a sandwich.
All right. I'll take it.
But as it relates to this, we're going to pray for you and participate. We won't keep it moving. I know I won't.
I appreciate that so much, but I will end on a little bit of a crazy question for you. And that
Lord.
Is a hot dog a sandwich? And why?
Is a hot dog a sandwich? It depends on what I put on it.
Okay. Go on.
And my hot dog, I know you're from Chicago, so the Chicago dog has a whole bunch of stuff on it. Pickles, mustard, onion, all that stuff. To me, a hot dog is a sandwich. And the reason why a hot dog is a sandwich is because it's a fix between one slice of bread that's sliced down the middle. So it's a one breaded sandwich. It has a piece of meat and the fixings in between. What's the difference?
I love it. I'll take it. Answer accepted.
Oh, thanks. Because I was waiting like, Professor, is that it? I didn't get to study. I don't have an outline.
I don't want to prep you for that one because it's so much more interesting to see people,
What's on your
answers.
hot dog though? What you putting on your Chicago dog?
I grew up a very picky eater, and while my wife has done wonders to change that for me, I still just love a good old plain hot dog. Just meat and bread.
No ketchup, no mustard. Because if you put in ketchup, I got to get off this podcast.
No ketchup, no mustard. But and you've been giving me the best transitions I've had yet. But it is time for you to get off this podcast because we've been talking for an hour.
Goodbye. And I like mustard on mine.
So I do think it's an opportunity for innovation.
My actual last question for you is a hot dog a sandwich? And why?
I've talked about this. I have talked about this. It is not a sandwich. I do
Why
not
not?
believe it is a sandwich because the bun and the meat are disproportionate. I don't like sandwiches that have a lot of meat hanging out. And generally, when I look at that, it suggests to me it's not. So for me, a hot dog is a hot dog. It is not a sandwich.
Thank you. And Natalie, thank you so much for being on the show. And that could change the profession right there. So my actual last question for you is a hot dog a sandwich? And why?
For someone who doesn't eat hot dogs. But that's a very Chicago question, I think. Yes, it is. Because you
Why?
can call anything that you want, anything that you want.
Good answer. I like that. That might be my favorite one so far. Erica Holmes, thank you so much for coming on the show.
I love talking about this.
And my final question for you then, Toma, is a hot dog a sandwich and why?
No.
Why not?
If I were to ask you for a sandwich and you came back with a hot dog, I would be not disappointed, but surprised. And I think most people would, because no one says, oh, let's go to the sandwich stand. And you get closer to the sandwich stand and it's a hot dog stand. So I don't care so much about like the technical similarities, but like how are people using this term? Like they're using it differently. So let's have that be the definition.
All right. Love it. Toma Officer, thank you so much for coming on.
Yeah, we're disrupting and it's kind of like through the back door.
Yeah. And with that, I have one final question for you, Kim, and that is a hot dog a sandwich and why?
Oh God, no.
Why? Why
That
not?
is the weirdest question I've ever been asked. That's something I feel like that's something my son would ask me. Because my son eats hot dogs without buns. He'll eat them cold. That is not a sandwich.
Okay, so a single individual hot dog, but a hot dog on a bun, is that a sandwich?
You know, I actually had to do an exercise in law school and argue about whether or not a pita pocket was a sandwich. This was in my intro to lawyering class, like the very beginning of law school. So it's funny that this is brought up. I never thought about the hot dog as being a sandwich because it's marketed as its own thing. I suppose if it's sandwiched between two slices of bread with toppings, you could argue that. But when I think of a sandwich, I'm thinking of, two separate slices of bread with meat, cheese, or other fixings in the middle of it.
Okay, so a hot dog in a bun, not a sandwich. But if you rip that bun in half, sandwich.
Yeah, I would say that.
Okay, all right.
I'm not going to die on that hill, though.
Kim, thanks so much. It's been a pleasure having you on the show.
And so they're making that connection and going, how do I make this work for me? So I think there's that entrepreneurial forward thinking piece too.
Yeah, that's great. So then I'll just leave it with one final question, Jess, and that is a hot dog a sandwich and why?
God, these are the massive questions of our time. Okay, a hot dog is not a sandwich. A hot dog is a hot dog, and a taco is a taco. A sandwich is a sandwich. I know there's bread involved, and yes, there's meat involved. But if you just had a bun with no hot dog inside, it would no longer be a hot dog. It's just a bun. So I'm going to go with no. A hot dog is not a sandwich.
Well, we'll see if that is the final answer for that question. But I know that's why people keep tuning back in to see what others have to say about is a hot dog a sandwich. So with that, Jess, thank you so much. My last actual question for you, Clay, is, and I ask this of all my guests, is a hot dog a sandwich and why?
Did you hear what was announced yesterday about nuclear fusion?
I did.
The answer to the question is yes. No, I'm sorry. It's not yes. It is a sandwich and it's not a sandwich is the answer to the question. It is anything you want it to be because holy cow, that fusion announcement proves anything's possible. This world is yours to make as you will. I I strive in every opportunity I can to not choose sides. And if I can avoid it, I do. I can't always. I can't always avoid it. But yeah.
I'm also one who tries to see all sides. So and not pick sides, right? The bifurcation logical fallacy. Not engaging in that here.
Ooh.
So well with that, Clay Green, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. Yeah, that's great. I don't think we're gonna beat that, but I do have one last question for you, which is something of a tradition on the show. Is I love to see how lawyers answer this. Is a hot dog a sandwich and why?
A hot dog is a sandwich because it is filling between two pieces of leavened bread. John Hodgman is wrong.
All right. So with that,
yeah, I mean, take the bull by the horns.
Yeah. Well, I think that's a great way to pretty much wrap this up. I just have one more question for you, Fretzen, and it's a question I ask all my guests, and that is a hot dog a sandwich and why?
Wow, from Chicago, is a hot dog a sandwich? We normally don't consider it a sandwich, but I think it is. You've got the bread, you've got the meat, you've got the condiments. Burger, sandwich. Like if I'm looking at a menu and it says sandwiches, generally the burger's going under there and the hot dog's just a round burger. It's just a different shaped, hamburger, if you will. So, meat on a bread. So yes, it's a sandwich.
All right. Well,
is that the right answer, by the way?
I may reveal the right answer on some future episode.
Okay. Keep us in suspense.
But that's your answer. And if
that's my answer. So clearly it's wrong because you're not being cagey.
So far, no one's given the right answer.
Maybe there you go.
Tip to future guests if they're listening now. Maybe it's a false question. But
is a pizza a sandwich?
I think it's maybe the same answer to the real answer of is a hot dog a sandwich?
If you roll it up properly, sandwich. Open face, less so.
This is, this is why people come to the Law Subscribed podcast.
We need to do a different show, a food show.
This is how they all end, and I promise there will be a compilation episode in the future of every guest's answer. So thanks again for coming on the show, Fretzen.
Take one thing that you do, think about a different way you could price it, and just test, experiment. You don't have to go full in. Just dip your toe in the water and test it with a few clients and see how it goes.
Yeah, love it. Well, Stephanie, thank you so much. My last question for you here is a hot dog a sandwich and why?
Oh my gosh, your team, you would love to be on our team. We have a lot of debates about what tacos are. I guess yes, because it's bread and meat and I don't know. I've never thought about the definition of a sandwich, so I'm just going to say yes.
Okay. All right. You got it. Well, we're not going to get any better than that. So let's, I'll give you my final question here, which is just a for fun question. And that is, Maria, is a hot dog a sandwich?
Ooh, I like that. I'm very into sandwiches. I'm going to go with yes.
Why?
Because my kids the other day were asking that about a burrito, like a tortilla. And it was wisdom from one of them. I can't remember who was the 12-year-old or the 3-year-old, but one of them was like, well, no, it's just like a sandwich. It's just the same thing. So you've got your flour-based wrapping, and then you've got your filling. So I think that's my sandwich definition.
Okay, and I'll cut you a break for our gluten-free listeners, where a flour or flour substitute wrapping.
There you go, perfect.
All right, well, Maria, it was a pleasure to have you on the show.
So it's really simple. It's very drag and drop. But some people run the cost analysis in their head and they're like, well, I bill, this much per hour, and it makes more sense for me to just keep working and then pay you to do the contract automations. So we hear that sometimes.
And my last question for you, Corey, is a hot dog a sandwich and why?
Well, I'm vegan, so I don't eat hot dogs.
That's okay. You don't have to eat hot dogs to answer my question.
I was trying to take the easy way out. Is a hot dog a sandwich? Well, banh mi is a sandwich, and it's on a similar kind of hoagie bun. So I'm going to say, yeah, it's a sandwich.
Okay. All right. You heard it here, folks. Corey Kelly says a hot dog is a sandwich. All right. Well, Corey, thank you so much for coming on Law Subscribed. It's taking action to make sure that you overcome that to the best that you can. So that's great. There's a really good discussion. I just have one last question for you that I ask all my guests, and that is a hot dog a sandwich, and why?
No,
Why?
it's
Why not?
so this is going to seem really arbitrary. For me, for it to be a sandwich, there should be 2 slices of bread. And if you have one that's conjoined at the base, it's not a sandwich, it's a bun. Or it's not a piece of bread, it's a bun with a sausage. So it's not. If you split the bottom and then put the pieces together, I'd say now it's a sandwich.
Okay, so you've heard it from an Australian, folks. This is the first. A hot dog is not a sandwich. We'll see if other Aussies agree in the future if I get lucky to have any on the show. So if you're ever around Lyndon and you want him to think your hot dog is a sandwich, tear the bun in half and then eat your sandwich. Lyndon, thanks so much for being on the show. And I think that could really help on a societal level as well when we hit that legal singularity. So my last question for you is, coming off of that one, is quite a doozy. It is a hot dog a sandwich, and why? So whoever wants to go first and tackle that one.
I got to tell you, I always thought this one was easy. A hot dog is not a sandwich. A sandwich is 2 pieces of bread. A hot dog is at best a split piece of bread with a sausage. I think sorry.
I agree with Abdi, and I would be a little bit shorter. I would just say a hot dog is sui generis, and it's not a sandwich.
Yeah, the taco sandwich is a folded slice of pizza a sandwich. Come on, Matthew.
Is a calzone a sandwich? That is a good question.
Oh, okay. No, for all the reasons I said, it's more of an edge case than the others. But
what if you tear the bun in half and then you have a hot dog that's between a now split bun?
You mutilating. That's you mutilating the product after the fact. What was it prepared as? That's the point at which we measure what the thing is.
Is an open-faced sandwich a sandwich?
Are the pieces of bread separated?
There's one piece of bread. It is an open-faced sandwich. Is an open-faced sandwich a sandwich?
You're getting into a metaphysical conversation right now. Is an open taco a salad?
What sound does one hand clapping make?
Exactly.
Well, I couldn't ask to end it any better of a way. Ben, Abdi, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. And I get the same benefit from my knowledge base for my clients. It's not having to answer the same questions over and over. Well, with that, I just have one last question that I ask all my guests. And Donata, that is a hot dog a sandwich, and why?
Is a hot dog a sandwich? I would say it is a sandwich because it comes in between bread. And, if you grew up in the type of area that I grew up in, maybe you used regular bread instead of the hot dog buns. So I would count it as a sandwich. Yeah. You can put lettuce on it if you want. I'm from Chicago, so you can put, your giardiniera sauce or whatever on there, which I don't like, but my husband loves. So I'm going to call it a sandwich. Yeah.
All right. I love it. That's good. I think that's a good place to end it. So I'll end with the question I asked all my guests, and that is, Mike, is a hot dog a sandwich, and why?
I would put it in the broad sandwich category because it's meat between pieces of bread.
Okay, you got it. Broad sandwich category. That is a first for the podcast. I like it.
So, how was that? How did I do?
That's excellent. So I'll finish with my classic last question on every episode, Jared, and that is, tell me, is a hot dog a sandwich, and why?
Is a hot dog a sandwich, and why? No, a hot dog is not a sandwich. I don't believe a sandwich can be represented by a bun. A sandwich to me is 2 pieces of bread, sliced bread. Unless you watch the new Disney movie Lightyear, see, I'm bringing it back there again. They actually have like 2 meats within a bread as a sandwich, which blew my mind. But no, a hot dog's not a sandwich. Sorry.
That was very clever. I did see Lightyear. I thought that was great. But okay, so then question for you, follow-up question, follow-up question to the last question.
Exciting.
If you rip your bun in half and still have that hot dog between it and you eat it, is that a sandwich?
Nay, no. All right, so let me take you back to my childhood. I was super poor as a kid. Hopefully my mom's not listening to this. Tangwiches, the whole deal. My family made what are called hot dog sandwiches, and here's how you make it. You take the hot dog, you split it down the center, and then you split it across so it can lay flat. 2 pieces of hot dog together. You put that between 2 slices of bread, not a bun, ketchup on it, really delightful. Sometimes I'll even make it for myself now because I love it so much. So hot dog in a bun, not a sandwich. Hot dog sandwich, actually a sandwich.
All right. I don't think we're going to beat that. Jared, it was a pleasure having you on the show. Right. Right. And if you could get the business, you could scale much faster and better than with the billable hour like you started this conversation with. So my actual last question for you, Brandon, is a hot dog a sandwich and why?
Hot dog is not a sandwich. Hot dog is special. Hot dog is a hot dog. There's a sandwich there, and a sandwich is a sandwich, but a hot dog is a hot dog. That's all there is to it. It's just different. It's a cousin of a sandwich.
Okay, they're cousins. That is a first. That is a first. I'll take it.
So yeah, anyway, I've been passionate about incentives being aligned, but I didn't really figure out, it never clued into me that subscription model could help you incentivize, like align incentives with your clients.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, with that, I'll ask you the last question I ask every single guest, and that is a hot dog a sandwich and why?
Hot dog is not a sandwich, I don't think.
Why?
And why? Because it doesn't have vegetables, which is such a bad answer, but I really like vegetables.
Okay, so a plain hot dog isn't a sandwich, but what if you throw vegetables on a hot dog? Does that make it a sandwich?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, you heard it here first. You could transition a hot dog from a not sandwich to a sandwich by adding vegetables. Caroline Reagan, thank you so much for coming on the podcast Lost Subscribed. Yeah. So if I could even just summarize that excellent statement, you're a lot happier no longer billing your hours and instead having a subscription business.
Definitely.
All right, we're not going to get better
Confirmed.
than that. Yes. My last question for you, Dorna, is a hot dog a sandwich and why?
Oh, wow. Curveball here. Yes, I would say it is. It is a sandwich because, I mean, you call a tartine a sandwich, right? So I was thinking, maybe does the bread need to be separated? The bread sort of separates as you're eating it. So yeah, 2 pieces of bread with something in the middle. I would say it's a sandwich. Do we have a case on this?
Not yet, but I'm building one. Special episode coming in the near future with just everyone's answers to this question.
Amazing. I'm staying tuned for that one.
Yeah. I think that, the subscription model rewards efficiency, which women who are at big firms are punished by being efficient because of having the courage to want to spend their time with family, like you said. And so the billable hour just doesn't work for that. And so, thank you for being a pioneer in this space and for showing that it can be done. With that, Joe, I just have one final question for you, my actual final question, which is a hot dog a sandwich and why?
I think analogously, if a hot dog is a sandwich, then a taco has to be a sandwich as well. And it's hard for me because I don't only have one slice of bread on my sandwich. I always take the top bun off.
Mm-hmm.
So all of my sandwiches are open faced. So if I follow that logic, then both a hot dog and a taco could be a sandwich because in my life, a sandwich does not have a top and a bottom.
So then rare follow-up question to this one. In light of that explanation, which I actually really like, is as closest to my answer, which I haven't given yet, is a pizza a sandwich?
Oh, I guess it could be. Yeah, I guess a pizza could be a sandwich. So I guess we're getting like a lot of times I will have shrimp tacos because they're really quick, easy. I don't finish work until late in the evening. And so I'm like, what can I defrost quickly and eat dinner quickly? And so I guess a sandwich is just something that has content with some manner of wrapper, even if the wrapper isn't fully enclosed, like maybe a burrito. So yeah, I guess a pizza could be a sandwich.
And if that didn't prove why you're a great metaverse attorney, I don't know what is, because it's like defining the metaverse, right? And you need a good lawyer to be able to do it. So I loved that. Favorite answer yet. Joe, thanks again so much for coming on the podcast.
And if those pique interest, then I think conversation's worthy to think about how are you going to do that under the billable hour versus how are you going to do that under the use of alternative fees. And that's often a nice place to get a conversation going.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Great. I love it. For my last question, you're actually the second Canadian I've asked this to, so I'm curious to see what your answer is. And that is a hot dog a sandwich and why?
Is a hot dog a sandwich? No, it's not. I think the thinking behind this has to be around the type of meat that's in the middle of it. Because if you're just saying bread on the bottom and bread on the top equals sandwich, we're talking hamburgers, talking hot dogs. I don't think those can live in the sandwich category. You just can't do it.
Calzone,
Yeah. Oh yeah, that's getting crazy. That's getting really crazy. Yeah, we got it. That just confirms it's a hard no. Can't be.
All right. Well, Scott Lee, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. A lot subscribed. Yeah, that's extremely well put, and especially when you're not billing by the hour, you have more time to give. Your time is still valuable, but
Absolutely.
your ability to give back is there even more so. So since you're my first guest who's come on the show twice, I normally ask, is a hot dog a sandwich? But since you've already answered
I've
that
already
question,
done that.
I'm going to ask you, is a calzone a sandwich, and why?
Oh, interesting. What are those peanut butter and jelly ones? Oh, they have a name. Uncrustables. If Uncrustables are a sandwich, then a calzone is a sandwich.
All right. I love it. You're the first one to tackle that.
But at the same time, it goes back to helping individuals and small businesses get better access to legal services.
Yeah. Well, I don't think we're going to get better than that. So the only reason why people stay to the very end is this question, Arya, and that is a hot dog a sandwich, and why?
Oh gosh. All right. Let me think. So to me, I'm a simple man. If you put a little bit of protein between two pieces of bread, I'm going to call that a sandwich. So I'm going to say yes. Yes. Hot dog is a sandwich according to me, but I'm not the sandwich connoisseur.
All right. I love it. Well, thanks again. But I think there's a lot of potential opportunity there. But with that, Liam, we are almost out of time. And so I'm just going to ask you my final question that I ask all my guests, which is a hot dog a sandwich, and why?
I'm going to say no. I have no clue why. It just doesn't feel like it. Same reason a hamburger doesn't feel like a sandwich.
All right, Liam, thank you so much for coming on the podcast.
Exactly. I know that's the beauty about having my own business, right? That I was like, well, I'll just put this scholarship underneath as part of what the business does. I turning a hobby into something contributing and beneficial to the community, and it's part of the business.
Right. Well, thank you so much for your time today, Daisy. I just have one more question for you that I ask of all my guests, and that is a hot dog a sandwich, and why?
Oh, gosh. You know what? I never even thought, is it a sandwich? I don't think so. I would say, no, it's not a sandwich. In my mind, a sandwich is two buns split in half and the hot dog bun is together. I don't know.
Okay, then if I tear a bun in half and still eat the hot dog, does that make it a sandwich?
Then I would be like, I don't know that that's a hot dog anymore.
Well, thank you so much again for coming on the show. So hopefully that comes sooner rather than later. It'll be a step in the right direction.
They're looking in the right direction. I agree.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show and talking about, both the past and the future of law with me. I do have a question I like to ask all my guests, which is a hot dog a sandwich, and why?
Yeah, I think that's more of a philosophical question than anything else.
Yeah.
I'm going to go with no for the simple reason we don't normally call it a sandwich, and I have no further analysis than that.
Yes, that you're the first one to call it out what it is. It has nothing to do with the actual answer to the question, right? But I will say my daughter, who's only 2.5, the other night we grilled burgers, and I was still preparing the vegetables, and I was going to plate it on everyone's plates. And she said, "Daddy, sit down, eat your sandwich." So, at least a hamburger kind of looks more like a sandwich, even though I would say we don't normally think about a hamburger as a sandwich, right?
Her logic is perfect, and kids always do that with language. They get it wrong because they're not burdened with our illogic.
Right? Maybe that's a takeaway for all those training generative AI.
Yeah. Yeah, it makes over literal mistakes. That's right, which maybe aren't always mistakes.
Right. And a good innovator like you also comes up with a subscription model. So I think
we'll end on that one. Yes, absolutely. The subscription model.
Yes. So last question I actually ask all my guests is a hot dog a sandwich, and why?
Oh my God. I think I'm back in sports class in law school again, but a hot dog a sandwich, I will say hot dog is a sandwich. because it's got two slices. But actually, I will say hot dog is a subcategory of a sandwich because there are sub sandwiches, there are, paninis, there are different kinds that you can consider sandwich. I mean, I would even argue a burrito is a sandwich. But we went to law school, so we could literally argue anything.
I love it. I've been waiting for an answer like that about the subcategories, because I ask this of all my guests, and I don't always interview lawyers, but I've been waiting for an answer like that.
You put it's like I'm thinking on the sense of like it's bread and there are things in between, and it's the same concept, and then you're just creating subcategories of how fancy you're getting with it.
Yeah, right. I love it. All right, well, thanks again for coming on the show.
Figure out who you can best serve, your ideal member, and start by optimizing for them.
Yeah. My last actual question that I ask all my guests, Robbie, is a hot dog a sandwich, and why?
I think it is. It's meat between two pieces of bread, sometimes with condiments and sometimes with extra toppings. And yeah, so timely given that, we spent our holiday watching Joey Chestnut down, whatever it was, 68 of them, 67.
Right. Okay. All right. So he's the sandwich eating champion then.
Sandwich eating champion.
Then a very specific regimen that could help you implement whatever your vision is.
Yeah, I think that's great. So with that, all the links in the show notes. And Sam, my last question for you is a hot dog a sandwich, and why?
It is not a sandwich because that's not what you think about when you think about a sandwich.
Okay. All right. So that was a quick answer. You've thought about this before?
No. But it's important to be instinctual and trust your instincts and just say it as it is instead of overthinking things too much.
All right, great.
If the traditional way is not the way that you want to go, find another way, and that's the way that I've gone. So
Love it. Oh, my last question for you is a hot dog a sandwich, and why?
Yes, it is a sandwich. It is a meat between either a single piece of bread or two pieces of bread, depending on how the bun is cut, with toppings. And I consider that a sandwich.
All right. Very definitively said, I must say.
Yeah, I've thought about this.
Like it's like when you drive a nice car for the first time and you're like, oh, so the engine's not supposed to like give a bunch of racket every time you start the engine. Oh, that's weird. That's a new experience.
Yeah, that's a great analogy. And I don't think we're gonna get better than that. My last question for you, speaking of weird, is a hot dog a sandwich, and why?
No, it clearly cannot be a sandwich because a sandwich is defined as two pieces of bread, whereas a hot dog is clearly joined by one piece of bread. It's folded. It's more akin to a taco. It's one piece of bread and in fact, if it splits down the middle, you're pissed every time because the fillings now drop out. So clearly a hot dog could not be a sandwich. It has to be more akin to a taco because a sandwich has to have two pieces of bread to be defined as a sandwich. That's my thought.
Okay.
I have very clear feelings on this. I've thought about this.
Yes. Yeah. And as we go more and more into Law Subscribed, I like to ask some follow-up questions. What about an open-faced sandwich? Is that a sandwich?
Oh, good question. I don't know if it's defined as a sandwich, but it's how I prefer to eat sandwiches because I don't need the extra carbs. Like I'm approaching 40. I got to limit that.
So is it like badly named open-faced sandwich has the name sandwich in it, but it's not a sandwich?
I mean, since I've doubled down pretty hard on the idea that you need two pieces of bread to be a sandwich, I think I logically I have to agree with that premise. I don't love that I've put myself in this corner, but that's where I am, so I'll defend it because it's not really a sandwich. It's just a piece of bread with toppings. It's really what are those called when you have like a cracker with cheese and sandwiches? There like cheese and meat on it, other than a Lunchable? Is there like a term for that?
I don't think so.
Whatever that term is, though, just the gargantuan version of that is what you're eating, not technically a sandwich.
Like a charcuterie something.
It's extraordinary charcuterie. Or gargantuan charcuterie. I don't know. We're gonna work with marketing. They'll figure out a better name.
Open-faced sandwich, not a sandwich, because because here's the thing: if you follow that logic, is pizza a sandwich?
Unless folded, of course not.
Unless folded,
in which case but I think it has to be eaten like no one eats a sandwich sideways. So it truly has to be up and down. I think that's really what it is that defines it. So I don't think a pizza can be, because you can eat it at any angle, really.
These are why people like this is the reason people tune into Law Subscribe. Matt Stevens, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. Right, 100%. And there could be a lot said there with the way that you charge your clients that also allows you to do that for your employees. The last question I have for you is why everybody comes to the show, and that is a hot dog a sandwich, and why?
I would say yes. Anytime it's meat in between two pieces of bread, it's a sandwich. So yeah, absolutely.
All right. Said confidently. Jaden, thanks so much for coming on the show.
The income hockey sticked up.
Yeah. Well, that brings us to our last question, Jason, and that is,
Sure.
Is a hot dog a sandwich, and why? And I'm asking the food lawyer here. So this is the first time I've been able to ask someone of your caliber, of your speciality.
That's the one question that's caught me flat-footed for this entire hour. That's actually pretty brilliant. I would just call it a forkless sausage, or something like that. Something there to that. Sandwich to me means like a cold cut, and it's got to the whatever's inside the sandwich must be wider than the bread, non-compressed. Because I'm from Long Island, and that's how we Long Island doesn't do much right, but they know how to make a sub. So that's my definition of a sandwich, and anything else has to fit some other thing.
All right, that is definitely a unique answer that I received to that question.
I think that's the really fun part about running this company.
Awesome, that's great. Well, my last question for you is a hot dog a sandwich, and why?
Wow, that's a really good question. Yes, because it's in between two pieces of bread. That's my hot take. That could be completely wrong. I didn't know that question going in.
All good. Yeah, like you said, we could have a really long conversation about this, just this topic. But I like to leave it just for the end. And I'll do a compilation episode in the near future of everyone's answers. My actual last question for you, Amanda, is a hot dog a sandwich, and why?
Is a hot dog a sandwich? No, a hot dog is a hot dog because it's not, it's between two pieces of bread, but they're connected. And I feel like a sandwich has to be disconnected to actually be a sandwich.
What if my bun is two different pieces, but it's still in the shape of a bun and there's a hot dog in between it? Is that a sandwich?
Well, then it's broken, and you couldn't eat that because then it's broken. Like, how depressing is it if your hot dog bun is completely broken? Then what are you putting in it?
If I slice a hot dog in half and then in half again, long ways, and put it in between two regular slices of bread, is that a hot dog sandwich?
Oh my gosh. Yeah, maybe. It depends on what your criteria is for a sandwich, right? Every person would be different in figuring. Is that just a typical lawyer answer of it depends? That's awful. I shouldn't give you that answer. Don't know.
These are the questions of our day and why people come to Law Subscribed. With that, Amanda, thanks so much for coming on the show.
And so even as a solo, that could be potentially huge value to you.
Yeah. That's a great final takeaway. But my actual last question for you, Alan, is a hot dog a sandwich, and why?
Oh, heck. A hot dog is a sandwich because it's smashed between two pieces of bread, even though those pieces of bread might be conjoined.
All right.
Just get it out of here and bring me a new one, and we'll pay dearly for that.
Yeah. Well, with that, it brings us to my final question I ask all my guests, Ron, which is a hot dog a sandwich, and why?
Well, I guess the linguists have determined that yes, it is. It's funny. You can get a hot dog at Togo's and Subway, and they sell sandwiches. So I guess it is. It's not a hill I want to die on either way.
Okay.
The shocking thing is you can opt out of that, right? You don't have to do it.
Yeah. So the reason why everybody listens to the end of the episode is because of my shocking last question, Owen, which is a hot dog a sandwich, and why?
I think that ultimately this is a distinction without a difference.
Still got to answer.
I'm going to go with no.
Because under the understanding it's a distinction without a difference. Just what's your reasoning for the no?
So a sandwich has multiple pieces of bread, whereas a bun is one piece that is sliced in the middle. So therefore, my distinction is that a sandwich requires two slices of bread, whereas a bun is a single thing with pocket in it.
Begs the question, is an open-faced sandwich with just one slice of bread a sandwich?
That I guess not.
Misnomer then?
that is a misnomer.
Okay, logically consistent. At least you're logically consistent. Okay. We call things they aren't all the time in the English language. So, you know.
Language gives itself away so often. But
all right. Well, thanks again. I think that's great. It's not going to get any better than that. So my last question for you, Andrea, that I always like to end these episodes with is a hot dog a sandwich and why?
Oh gosh. Is a hot dog a sandwich? Yes, because it's a piece of meat between two pieces of bread.
Okay. All right.
So I think it's just like, people being innovative. I think necessity is the mother of invention. So that's where we are.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, this is quite a pivot for this last question I'm going to ask you, which is a hot dog a sandwich and why?
A hot dog is not a sandwich because it does not have two separate pieces of bread.
What if your bun what if your bun is separated? Does that make it a sandwich?
Then it's a hot dog sandwich.
Okay. This is why people come to the Law Subscribed podcast.
Yeah, yeah.
And when you're not selling your time, it's all about scalability and being able to scale.
Yeah,
to bring
absolutely.
it back to the model. So, but with that, my final question I have for you is a hot dog a sandwich and why?
I would say no. I like that question. It's super out of left field. I don't feel like it's a sandwich, but I think that's more of a gut feeling. When I think about it, like a hot dog is a unique thing on its own. A sandwich is, man, that's a good question because now I'm arguing with myself. I'm like, I don't know, you call a hoagie a sandwich, but that's bread cut down the middle and wrapped around meat. Damn, I like it. Good question. I'm like most things in life, I have to think about that before I have a better answer. But I guess at the end of the day, I'm probably just going to go ahead and say, yeah, I think there's a really good argument that it is.
All right. All right. Well,
Damn,
you heard
got
it
me.
here.
You made me change my mind right away. I argued with myself and went, no, my gut reaction might not be right.
Challenge limiting beliefs. You showed you had a growth mindset. I think those are all good
Dude,
things.
Mindset is like that. That was a book that in that episode, Tom Bill, you talked about, and I read it right away.
Not just to copy them, but to have that support, have that kind of exchange of ideas. And those are the things I think that have helped us so far.
Yeah. Well, great, Alistair. Thank you so much. And my actual last question for you is a hot dog a sandwich and why?
It's no. No, it's not.
Why?
You can take it from, well, I mean, a sandwich has slices of bread, not a roll. That's a roll. It may be a cultural thing, but I feel like the sandwich was invented in this country, so you can take it on by the Earl of Sandwich, no less.
I haven't. No one's laid claim to origin of sandwich being able to do that. That's a new one.
Yeah, it was the Earl of Sandwich, no less, who invented it.
All right. Well, maybe I have to start asking another question. I guess that's been solved. That's been answered now.
Yeah, it's done.
Then all the fancy business model technology stuff isn't going to matter. So it's a really important lesson, Jonathan. Thank you so much for coming on the show and sharing with it and talking about it for my listeners. The last question I'd like to ask my guests is a hot dog a sandwich and why?
Oh boy, I say no. Shape and the lack of coverage of the franks. Like my sandwich should have bread over top or some substrate over top of it. I don't want to see it. An open-faced sandwich is not a sandwich. And I think a hot dog is an open-faced item and doesn't count.
So open-faced sandwich is a misnomer then, in your opinion?
Correct. Jumbo shrimp. Oxymoron.
All right. That is a first for the show. So hopefully maybe if that happens, you'll have it for Louisiana. All right. So Andrew, thank you so much. My last question for you, a question I ask all my guests is a hot dog a sandwich and why?
No, it's just a hot dog.
come on, because it's a hot dog is not a good enough explanation. Give me a little bit more than that, Andrew. What's your reasoning behind because it's a hot dog?
It's a different thing, you know. A sandwich is, you know, it's more of two slices of bread between. I mean, I don't know. It's just it's a different category of thing. You know, it's like saying is, you know, like personal avatars, right? They're different things. You know, the $19 a month thing is not the same as the $2,500 a month thing.
Tying it back. I love it. You're the first one. You're the first one to tie back an earlier conversation.
I mean, are they both clients? Yes, but is the $19 a month client the $2,500 a month client? No.
Good. Nice analogy. I'll take it.
And I would encourage people to think that way, because then you dream about a bigger future for your own communication skills, and then you're motivated to even do it in the first place and get better.
Yeah, I love it. So with that, I'm going to ask my final question that I ask all my guests, which is, Brendan, is a hot dog a sandwich, and why?
Is a hot dog a sandwich? I mean, I guess technically it would be a sandwich, right? Because it's like there's like two breads and there's like meat in the middle. So yeah, I'd say it's a sandwich. Sure.
All right.